thanks for tuning in for another quick little channel C.G.E video. Here we are, back again with this 2007 PT Loser. Going to be replacing the alternator today. Like I said in previous videos, this is my mom's car. The other day, she was driving it, started making a whiny noise, kind of like it had a supercharger, and the battery light eventually came on. Of course, the headlights and everything were on, so it was drawing on the battery, and the alternator wasn't keeping up with the charge. It's most definitely the alternator that needs to be replaced, so we're going to be doing that today. I'm going to be taking you guys along with me as I attempt to do it, as always. This thing is really heavy. Back out here in the barn actually working on it today because the DTS is at the point where it can be driven, and there will be videos about that. I don't know if there's already videos out. If there is, I'll flash them up in the corner there. If not, stay tuned. But it's nice to be able to work on other stuff out here now because it's so much better lit. I mean, it's still not very good, just a lot of these lights, but it's better than that garage over there. As you can see, I'm very experienced with opening the hood up on the PT Cruiser because I have to do it so much since I own one. Okay, I'm sorry, I will try not to make any more PT Loser jokes today. Just let me steal Bry's light really quick. Shh. Alright guys, so under the hood here, down in there is where the alternator is located at. You can see it right down there. And the way we're going to be accessing it is up through here. We're going to be taking this wheel off, jack it up, take the wheel off. There's a shroud up in here we're going to be pulling down, and then we'll be able to access it. We're going to have to do some from up under the hood, like unplugging, and there's a bolt or two, and then another bolt down here, but we're going to work on that. Dude, holy crap, those things are tight. Well, we'll figure this one out. Alright guys, finally just got the wheel off. I ended up actually having to use that piece of pipe and a wrench, regular socket, to pull the lug nuts off. They were so freaking tight. That was a pain in the butt. So, anyways, what we're going to be doing is pulling this plastic shroud here down, which should be pretty easy to do, and then this thing is going to also unbolt. So this belt shroud's actually held in how it's supposed to be, with a plastic push pin back there. And there's supposed to be three, but there were only two 10 mil little bolts that went up in there. Now it pulls down, but I'm gonna pull this off now. I think these are 15 mil. These bolts on this little thing, and then everything should slide right out, and then we can get to work on the alternator. Alright, finally got this shroud out. There's actually two more plastic pins. There's one like up in here, right there, and there was another one like up in here, up through where that hole is. So anyways, now we can visibly see the alternator, which is right there. What we're going to be doing is pulling the belt first, which we're going to do up through the hood, and we're going to unbolt this bolt, and we're also going to bolt the bracket because you kind of got to have the bracket off, and then we should be able to pull it out through here. It's going to be tight, but it'll work. So, alright guys, so the two bolts that need to be undone, there's the alternator right there, and that bolt right there, that bolt, is what tightens and loosens the belt, and this one also holds the alternator in place. So that one we're going to completely remove, as well as the one down below, which I showed you. And then once we do that, we'll loosen the tensioner bolt, and then we'll pull the belt off of it, and then we should be able to pull the alternator down out of there. Alright guys, so finally got the bolt loose down here. That was quite a job. I could not get it loose just with this, which is the best wrench I got. It's a 15 millimeter, by the way. What I ended up doing was I cut a little piece of this here temp pipe. I measured this about 13 inches, so like a foot. It's like a little more than an inch in diameter. Put this on the wrench, and it worked perfectly to get it loose. And I also sprayed it down with a little bit of this good stuff, but that's what it took to get that loose. So now we got to come down and do this one, which I'm not looking forward to, and also loosen the belt. Alright, got this bolt loose already. is a real pain to get that one broken loose. I ended up using for a wrench. I stole one of Bry's, of course. You know, I noticed he's been taking his tools home lately. I wonder if he's getting sick of me using his stuff. But anyways, I use this one because it ratchets down here in the end, like crushing my hand by yanking on it down in there. Long story short, got it loose. So I'm gonna loosen the tensioner bolt, which is not as bad. I'm gonna use one of the ratcheting ends. It's gonna make it 10 times easier as well. It's that bolt there. And I believe it's a 13 mil. Gonna get that loose, and then we can pull the belt off, and then we can take those bolts off completely, and we can work on dropping the alternator out of this. Alright, finally just got the alternator belt off. I had to loosen that a ton. I also removed the other one. It's just hanging there. It's really easy to do because all you gotta do is get 15 mil on that tensioner pulley and just kind of pull it. I did that as well, just kind of get it out of the way. And here's the alternator belt right here. It's actually in pretty good condition, so we're not going to worry about that. So now we're going to work on completely removing the bolts, which is this one right here, and then the one up here, which is actually going to be really easy to do. I can probably just get this one off with my fingers now. Then we can work on dropping the alternator out. Finally. Alright guys, so the alternator is loose. There it is. It's just sitting there on the mount. Was able to get it out without completely removing that tensioner bolt. You can kind of see right now the tensioner bolt is right there, sticking way out, and then the bolt that was going in the alternator is here, and they're linked together. The alternator did slide, has enough room to slide this way enough to come off the bolt without completely removing it. I don't know if we'll have to do that to get it on or not. Hopefully not. That's the scoop so far. Alright, so something to be honest I completely forgot about was the wires. There's this thing here, and that little red clip needs to be slid somewhere. There's also, I don't know exactly how that goes on, maybe a little bolt or something, but we'll figure that out. Once the alternator is loose, though, you can kind of wiggle it around to a position that's hopefully a little easier. At least that's my theory. So, gotta work on doing that now. I'll check back in with you guys when that's done, and then we'll continue to make progress. Alright, so to get this mount off, there's bolts up in there that are like impossible to move without basically undoing these motor mounts and dropping the motor. So yeah, that sucks. I don't know what to do right now, so I gotta figure it out and I'll check back in with you guys. Alright guys, just gonna go for it and lower the motor down so I can finish doing the alternator stuff up in there. Lowering the motor really isn't bad at all. It's just unbolting this motor mount and this one up here, which is not a big deal either. And then pull this Torx bit out, have a jack under the motor, and it's easy peasy lemon squeezy. So that's what we're gonna do. Now, I talk more, I think, about doing this in my other video. I'll flash it up in the corner there. I did a timing belt and water pump and all that stuff on my own cruiser, which is right there. That job sucked, by the way, but I'll flash that video up just in case you want to watch that as well. But anyways, it looks like it pretty much you gotta lower the motor to finish doing this job. So it shouldn't be too bad, but that's what we're gonna do now. Alright guys, so I already removed all the motor bolts. It was actually really easy. Once I got the jack under, there was no problem. This is an 18 mil. This is a T55 Torx, and then they're 15 mil up above. Wasn't bad at all. So now we've done that, I'm gonna try to lower the motor very carefully with this jack. Then hopefully everything will be easier to reach up in there, and we can finally get that alternator out and throw the new one in. Have it done with. Alright guys, so we got the alternator, so like it's almost, it wants to come out. It really does. It's ready. I got the mounting plate off. These two bolts go into the side of the motor. It goes up in like that. And those were a real pain to get at. But once I lowered the motor down, you could get them. I got them with style with the ratcheting in the end. It was a 15 mil. But if you had like not a deep dish, but like a smaller regular one, I don't happen to have a regular 15 mil. That would have worked perfectly. I was able to get up in there and break them loose. It was still a pain to break them loose and everything, but finally got the wires undone. That was a pain. What I'm going to say is I recommend doing it ahead of time, or at least trying to do it ahead of time, because I'm assuming if you looked around you'd be able to find them. And then the alternator's in place still, so it's easier to get them loose. But Alright, ladies and gentlemen, back on another day. I don't know if you can hear it, but it is like really windy out. Hopefully I'll have this finished soon. What we need to do is do this CV axle. That needs to happen to get the alternator out. Well, never mind. The engine, you can jack it up high enough that you do not have to remove that axle, that CV joint. So, yeah, there's the old alternator right there. Yeah, it's definitely not as free as the new one. Now we can finally get the new one in there. We just had to keep jacking it up, and it's probably not a bad idea to like jack it, go over and see if you can pull it out, jack it a little more, go and see if you can pull it out. So that way you don't jack it too high, but just high enough that you can get this out. That didn't have to be removed. I did remove the pin and this that go on the end already before I figured this out. But actually I didn't have a socket that would fit this, so I would have had to go, you know, borrow one or something, do something. So I'm really glad I figured that out before I had to do that. So anyways, now it's time to actually start making some progress. And by the way, guys, I figured while everything was still out of here, I'd show you how this wire works, if I can. You see, you got to pull this red tab out. I'll show you, it pops in and out. You see, I just popped it in. There it is, in. And then once that's out, you can press on that black plastic that's inside it right there. You got to press in on that once this is out. It's not out right now because I just pushed it in. Now I can't get it back out. That was smart. And then this other one right here is, I'll show you here on the old alternator. This is the way it works. Bolts up here. It's kind of a pain in the butt because it's got this plastic shroud to protect it. So you need like a socket for sure. This is what I ended up using, and it was a 10 mil. So this worked out perfectly. Just a little wrench like this with a 10 mil on it. Anyway, so there's that. Gonna get the alternator back up in there now. Alright guys, got the alternator wires on. It was another one of those things where I kind of just had to wheel it around. But anyways, now that the wires are plugged in, we can lower the motor back down and work on reinstalling this bracket, which is going to go up in there. I think I already said this, but it's going to go up in there like such. Somebody just got thinking, I wonder if I could get the, once I lower the motor down, get the alternator on that bolt there. So it's just kind of out of the way. Get it on that and then do the rest. Alright guys. Got the alternator, it's in there, so I just got to tighten everything down. Then I can put the motor mounts back together and put the belt on, and we should be gravy. Should be good to go. So, got all the motor mounts pretty much done. I got to tighten these bolts down in here. Get that done, and then I'll check back in with you guys when we actually finally start this thing back up. Well, belts are lined up, nice and tight. Everything seems cool. Everything's tightened down, so before I, take it off the jack or anything and put the plastic shroud back on and stuff, I'm gonna start it up real quick and make sure everything's working. Alright, ladies and gentlemen, I'm gonna keep this ending kind of short. This video is way longer than I wanted it to be, but as you saw, the job got a lot more complicated than I originally expected. That's always frustrating, especially when you go into this thinking that it won't take that long, but it seems like you have to raise and lower the motor to do anything on these cars, and it can be annoying. I figured, there would be enough space to get things in and out. I knew it would be tight, to get it in and out and be up in there wrenching on the alternator, but it was way worse than I originally expected. Anyways, guys, I hope if you're going to be trying to fix your alternator on one of these, maybe you were able to learn something from this, and if not, I hope somehow you found this entertaining. If you did like it, be sure and give it a thumbs up. Comment down below with any questions or anything you would like to say. Be sure and go subscribe to see stuff whenever it comes out, and hit the bell button as well, because I guess that's the thing. Anyways, guys, thanks again for watching. You rock. God bless, and I will see you in the next one.